Well, Adele is pulling a Taylor Swift and won't stream her upcoming album 25. Really, can you blame her? By our rough estimates, an artist would get $8 for 100 plays on the radio. On Spotify, they'd only get 70 cents, roughly speaking, for 100 plays. The album, out Friday, will not be available on streaming platforms like Spotify or Apple Music, though users can purchase 25 on iTunes. Alex Gale is senior editor at Billboard. He joins us by Skype. You would think that once, nice to see you, Alex. Hey, you would think once Taylor Swift, this top performing artist across the globe, once she says no streaming, the streaming companies would get smart and say, all right, we need to somehow compensate the artists more. Is there any attempt on that front?
I think they're still figuring out the formula, and this is obviously like a huge new frontier for the record industry in general, and they're still figuring out it exactly. A lot of artists are not happy with it and very much been openly complaining with it, and it's going to be interesting to just see where it goes. You know, I don't think anyone knows for sure right now. Adele is going to have a huge album, like the biggest, maybe possibly the second biggest album, you know, since NSYNC in 2000. So for her not to be on streaming is definitely a huge deal and a huge loss for the streaming industry. So I think there's going to have to be some kind of like arrangement or detente or some kind of thawing in diplomatic relations, because this is obviously a situation that can't keep going when you have a huge album like this, like a landmark album that's not going to be able to be streamed.
I don't know. Do you think that people, because Adele is not going to let her album be streamed, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to stop using Spotify or Pandora or whatever. Doesn't it just mean that they would do, if they love Adele and they want her music, aren't they going to do exactly what she wants them to do? They're going to go on iTunes and buy the album.
People are going to continue, you know, people are always going to use Spotify and these services because they have replaced what was happening with piracy. People at this point somewhat do expect their music for free, for better or for worse. It's just reality. And Adele in some ways is a singular artist. Like, she can sort of do what she wants. People are going to buy this album no matter what. But if you're a newer artist, or an artist that's trying to break through, you in some ways are very much dependent on these streaming services just to get your music out there. And when it's not out there, people don't necessarily hear it. They don't find it. There's no word of mouth.
Yeah, so wouldn't 7 cents on Spotify, if you're not Adele, you know, if you're an emerging artist, 7 cents on Spotify, wouldn't that be for 100 plays? Now I'm talking about, you're looking now at the individual compensation per play. We did math, which I was told there would be no math, but whatever. Alex, when we're talking about compensation, artists don't do it as much for the compensation as they do to build an audience and build their brand. Or am I totally offbeat here?
No, that's basically why. I mean, the unfortunate reality for most artists who aren't named Adele or Taylor Swift is that streaming, basically, your music, essentially, your recorded music almost becomes an advertisement for things that still make money, which are live shows and merchandise. And that's really the new model for most bands that are, you know, sort of like the middle class in the music industry. They're using these streaming services just so people can hear their music, and then they tour nonstop. They look for synchronization deals in terms of getting their music on ads and things like that. In terms of actually people consuming their recorded music, it's not. It's becoming a smaller and smaller source of income for them.
My takeaway here is it's really good to be on top.
Yep, it's good to be Adele right now.
Alex Gale, nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.